السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الأمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين، ونحن على ذلك من الشهيدين. أما بعد، فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير. My dear brothers, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this gathering and make this gathering for His sake. Bid'na ta'ala, we're going to be continuing our series, Madaj al-Salikin, ranks toward the divine. And this is a famous book, I always say, by Imam al-Qayyim, where he talks about the stages that the individual would have to go through as he is traveling toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today, every week we try to cover one stage at a time. Today's stage, he called it Manzilatul Wa'. Manzilatul Al-Wa'. And I'm going to get to that definition. So last week, we talked about the distinction between Zuhud and Wara', right? And we said that, Zuhud is when someone abstains from the dunya, okay? And we define in brief, Al-Wara' is when someone abstains from doing things that might get him into the haram, okay? So in Wara', you abstain from things that might get you into the haram, okay? So does that mean that we stop, does that mean that we should be fearful from the haram? Yes. But there are rules and there are regulations when it comes to that. First of all, Ya Akhwan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuha rusulu, kulu min at-tayyibat. All prophets eat from what is good. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to enjoy life. Nothing wrong with that, وَعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا. كُلُوا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا. As if Rabb al-Alameen is telling you, yes, enjoy love, but do righteous acts. As you consume this energy, do righteous acts. And also Prophet Muhammad. So the point is that we should be going forward trying to do what is good. We try to seek the satisfaction of Rabb al-Alameen. But while we're doing so, while we're trying to satisfy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is an important aspect that many of us tend to neglect. Is how is our heart with Rabb al-Alameen? There is an ayah that I'm sure all of you know, and many people tend to misinterpret or mistranslate. In Surah Al-Mudaththir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهَّرْ. The literal meaning of that, clean your clothes. O Prophet of Allah, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهَّرْ. O Prophet of Allah, your clothes should be clean, okay? But the question here, brothers and sisters, is that many people could, if you look at many of the Mufassirin and how they translated this ayah, it becomes amazing. For instance, Mujahid, one of the greatest Mufassirin, he said, نَفْسَكَ فَطَهِرُ مِنَ الذَّنْبِ فَكَنَ عَنْ النَّفْسِ بِالثَّوْبِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, it's not about the literal thawb, the literal clothes, no. Clean your soul. Clean your soul from the sins, For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is given an example of the soul as it's your clothes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling you, clean your nafs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't clean your soul. And the Arab, and I'm going to get to that, the Arab back then, they used to say, وَالْعَرَبُ تَقُولُ فِي وَصْفِ الرَّجُلِ بِالصِّدْقِ وَالْوَفَاءِ طَاهِرُ الثِّيَابِ. The Arab back then, when they want to describe someone who is clean, who is nice, who is truthful, how do you describe him? They describe him, طاهر الثياب. His clothes is clean. وتقول للغادر الفاجر دنس الثياب. The one who used to, the Arab used to call someone who is evil, people who does not fulfill their promise, his clothes is unclean. So from that perspective, Rabb al-Alameen, he's revealed the Quran to the Arab, who have their own understanding. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, meaning what? Clean your soul from the sins, you know. And Ibn Abbas, a famous translator of the Quran, he said, لا تلبسها على المعصية ولا على الغدر. Don't make your nafs, you know, do any sin or not fulfilling a promise. So meaning, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is He saying here? Clean your heart. Clean your mouth. And the question here, ya ikhwan, and the question here, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made the salah not acceptable while your clothes unclean, what about if our hearts are unclean 24/7? And the question here, ya ikhwan, is how can we unclean our hearts? And that's why the definition of the wara' will come in perspective. Because the whole point of al-wara' is how could we cleanse our heart from the sins. والمقصود أن الورع يطهر دنس القلب ونجاسته. He said the wara', the whole purpose of al-wara', it would clean your heart from any evil, from any dirt, you know. And that's why, brothers and sisters, the thing is, many people tend to not understand sometimes some of the Islamic rulings. For instance, do you guys know that there is a wisdom of why men are not supposed to wear silk? Why men are not supposed to wear gold? There is and Ibn al-Qayyim, he said the following. He said وتأثير القلب والنفس في الثياب أمر خفي يعرفه أهل البصائر. It's like people, not everybody know the effect on someone wearing these kind of things. Yet some of these things, like for instance, someone wearing expensive clothes may not be haram, but these things, why they're haram? Because brothers and sisters, when someone wears these things, eventually it will get to him. Maybe you claim it's not. Maybe you claim, and you could claim from here to tomorrow, wearing silk or wearing gold or wearing these expensive things does not affect you. You can make that claim, but eventually you're lying to yourself. Again, here I'm not saying that no one should be wearing nice clothes. This is different. Here I'm talking about something that is luxurious to the point that to seek the eyes of the individual or the people around you. Now, who could tell me? Someone who is driving, for instance, a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, do you think truly it's not affecting him? It's impossible. He has to have a heart of an iron. I'll tell you this. Wallahi, he has to have a heart of an iron for someone to wear such a luxurious things, and we say, like, it's absolutely not. It's enough. It's really the soul of how when and this here we talk about things maybe not haram. What about if somebody is committing sins? Now, just out of the ordinary, compare the heart of a shepherd versus the heart of a horse rider. Who's more humble? I'm asking, who's more humble? The shepherd. It didn't take a genius to figure this out, right? But as soon as someone, a horse rider, gets into the horse, and the way the horse would ride itself and dance, because the horse it dances and walks in such an elegant way, and without anything, it causes prestige. It's just the way it is. This is what a horse is. So. Some of these things, brothers and sisters, again, someone has to think about. And how is it affecting you? So the issue here of al-wara' ya ikhwan is how can we leave and how can we clean our heart from these messes? And how could we not involve ourselves in things that we don't need to get involved in? There is one thing, if here we're not talking about haram, but here the point here is that we're away from the step of the haram. Is how can I not get myself in places that might lead me to the haram? And that's what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He said, And the scholars, they said, Alwaraa was summarized by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in one hadith. Where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. From the beauty of an Islam of an individual, from the beauty of the Islam of the individual, that he would leave anything that is not his business. And look at how we are nowadays. If we just implement this hadith, we would not talk about filan, and this guy, and this business, and that guy, and what is they doing. Our brain is all over the place, and we get ourselves in so much trouble and so much sins because we stick our nose in things that is none of our business. And imagine that the speech that comes out of our mouth, the places that we're supposed to look, the things that we're supposed to hear. And Allah, to some people, this can also accumulate to like 70 to 80% of everything that we do. How can I get myself in somebody else's business? Ibrahim ibn al-Adham, he said, what is al-wara'? He said, al-wara' tarku kullu shubhatin wa tarku kullu ma ya'nik wa tarku al-fadalat. He said, al-wara' is that would you leave any shubha, any a place of gray. Anything that is gray, you leave it. Anything that might lead you to the haram, you leave it. Anything that is none of your business, you leave it. And that's why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he told Abu Hurairah, he said, Ya Abu Hurairah, kun wari'an, takun a'bad al-nas. Ya Allah. And that's the beauty of being a wara', having that wara'. Why? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, oh Abu Hurairah, be a person of wara', you become the best of worshippers. The best, not just that, in a'bad al-nas, the best of worshippers. Because the ikhwan here, there is a difference between, again, leaving the haram and being in the stage of wara'. Sufyan al-Thawri, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, he said, and this is a glad tidings to all of us. He said, ما رأيت أسهل من الورع. Sufyan al-Thawri said, the easiest thing in the world is al-wara'. Why? He said, ما حاكاك نفسك تركته. Anything that you have a little bit of doubt about, you leave it. Done. Anything you're suspicious of, you leave it. Doubt, you leave it. You think it might lead to the haram, you leave it. Khalas. And that's the way you go into starting to do this. Al-Hasan radiallahu anhu, and that's the beauty of it, brothers and sisters, shows us the impact of doing this kind of worshipping. He said, مثقال ذرة من ورع خير من ألف مثقال صوم وصلاة. He said, when someone having a gram weight of wara' is 1,000 times than doing 1,000 salah prayer and 1,000 fasting. Why is that? Why is that? Because wara' is the relationship here is not just doing an act of worship. Is you are looking how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is viewing you. The act of worship, I see it, you see it, fasting, things that we see. But an act of wara' is purely a relationship between you and Rabbil Alamin. You are just, you're avoiding what many people would think it's okay. You're avoiding things that might lead you to the haram, And that's why, brothers and sisters, those who does this, the biggest thing they have is what they call ta'zeem al-Rabb. They make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so great in their heart. And that's why they made it so great to the point they're not just avoiding the haram, they're avoiding something that might lead them to it. And that's why Ibn Qayyim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses, and he said again, al-wara' into 3 different steps. That inshallah we're going to go through them very quickly, so at least we get this over with. الدرجة الأولى, the very first step of الورع. He said تجنب قبائح لصوص النفس وتوفير الحسنات وصيانة الإيمان. He said the very first thing, and this is a very common understanding, the very first level of الورع. What is it? He said تجنب القبائح لصون النفس. that she would leave anything that is impure, so it would not affect your nafs. Again, leaving anything that is of shubha, leaving anything of anything that is gray, anything that might lead you to the haram. And here this is the very first step. We're not getting so fancy. Why? Because you want to have more hasanat. The thing is, when someone leaves the shubhat, are they ever gonna commit any sayyat? Very rarely. Very rarely for them to commit any sin. So what happens is by doing so, tawfir al-hasanah, they will have so many rewards, okay, and they will protect their iman. Now this is the very when someone here is the haram is not an issue. The haram is not an issue. Why? Because they're beyond it. Now is how can I protect that first line of defense? And that's the way. This is the very first way that they will think about it. Because what happened? They know, ya ikhwan. There is a hadith by Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that talks about the effect. Because here is that they want to protect their iman. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إذا أذنب نكثت في قلبه نكثة سوداء. As soon as someone commits a sin, there is a dark dot in his heart. And then if he go back, this dark dot is going to be removed. And if he commit a good deed, a white dot is going to be in his heart. And then until the hearts are going to be of two kinds: a very whitish heart versus a very dark heart. You see? So the question here is that they're not going to let to the point that they're going to have any dark or black spots in their hearts whatsoever, because they're always cautious. That's the very first step. How can I avoid anything that is going to lead me to the haram? That's it. I'm done. The second step is that حفظ الحدود عندما لا بأس به إبقاؤه على الصيانة والتقوى والتخلص من إحدام الحدود. He said, how can I get to the second step of Alwaraa? He said that you would protect your boundaries. Here we're talking about so we left the haram, we know that. We're above committing anything that is doubtful, we're above that. Now you're protecting your boundaries. And how are you protecting that? By fearing that you might go into the doubt. And a lot of times these individual brothers, they would leave a lot of the halal for just because of. Like for instance, when someone, I claim that some people who does not watch any game is part of wara. And that's the least wara that anybody would do. Because these things eventually might lead you to the haram. Whether it was wasting time, whether it was watching haram, things in between, or even leaving the TV altogether. That's part of wara. Here, again, the point here is that you protect what is protected. Just like we protect our fara'id with sunnah. And you protect the sunnah with what? With nothing, right? So do you think for someone who is following that order, do you think ever they're going to let go of their fara'id? It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. He might, let's say his iman would go down, he might let go of the nothing. And if so bad, he might get into the sunan. But for him to go to the fara'id, it's impossible. Because he have second layer of protection in between him, And Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wisdom here, in commenting on this level, what he said, هذا ينافي المراتب العالية إن لم يكن تركه شرطا في النجاة. He said, like, this is not anybody can do. Not anybody can do. Because this is somebody, and you would have to be a higher status in order to do this. Higher status between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because not anybody can do this. It feels better. You feel much more safer. Well, brothers and sisters, when someone become to become indulged in that level, or they would taste that level, their life is different. Wallah al-Azim. They look at things different. To them, it's not just about halal and haram. They look, how can I make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهُ. This is the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then close to it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, because understand this, ya ikhwan. When we are looking at the boundaries of Allah, what's closer to the boundary is halal, right? But at the end of that boundary, it's going to be haram. The closer the more you get closer, the more you might get into that place of doubt or haram eventually, So and that's the way you have to think about it, because many people play with fire and then once they get stained, how come I did? Well, of course he did. Of course he did. And we're at the last step. The last step is what? التورع من كل داعية تدعو إلى شتات الوقت. Beautiful. That you would leave anything that is going to destroy your time. So you see that individual always what the issue here is, again, is how it's not about so much again about halal or haram or shubha. No. How can I do the best? How can I consume my time in doing what is great? Again, to him, whether it be in the phone, it's not even thing he has to think about, or a TV show or a movie. It's not something he would think about. It's something that he always try to he's beyond that. Now again, ya ikhwan, I think sometimes when we talk about these things, people think that we should be living. When somebody reaches that level, someone might think he's living in a bubble. We're not saying that. I'm saying that, brothers and sisters, when someone look at your time today, not yesterday, today, how much time have you wasted? Seriously. Just today. How much time have you wasted? How much time have you spent on the phone talking about other people? And instead you could have been doing tasbih. How much time have you been on the phone where you could have been read the Quran? How much time have you been probably in front of the TV while you could be doing, here I'm talking about watching a show or a movie, while you could be doing something voluntarily work or something. So because many of us will say, I don't have time. You do. Wallahi, you do. But what happens is you tend to put your time slot somewhere else. And someone, when they reach that last level of wara, what they do is the number one goal is how can I satisfy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with my time? And he's always jumping from one thing to another. And that's the usara, the best of what people who would reach that level would be. So brothers and sisters, in summary, al-wara is how can I move myself from committing anything that is doubtful. Anything that is doubtful. And that's required knowledge. Because you would have to know what is doubtful and what is not. And a lot of times, al-mar'u faqihu nafsi, the individual, you know yourself. And that's maybe the most important thing I'm going to say here is that you know yourself. What does it mean? If I'm going to hang out with this individual and I'm going to eventually fall into the haram, then why do I keep doing it? Then I avoid that individual altogether. If I'm going to go to this gathering, for instance, brothers and sisters, I'm a man. Since I came to the United States, the number of weddings that I went to, I could count them in my hand. Why? Because 99.9% of with Arab weddings or even close Somali friends that I went to, they have a lot of haram things. With all due respect, when it comes to mingling, mixing, music, all that. Why am I going to put myself in that situation? Why should I do that? You see? So the thing is, this is wara. If I'm going to be in a place where there is going to be haram committed, I'm not going to go there. If I'm going to be hanging out with an individual, well, eventually I'm going to be possibly talking about others. What's the point? If I had a chance between doing something that is useful versus something that is not useful, or something that is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah al-Azim, ya ikhwan, we have so much time to do so many things. In the past couple of days, I tested myself with this. Just testing. It said, and sometimes when we are like doing things on social media, we forget about ourselves. I was able to read so much Quran extra by just putting my phone on. So much. In the 20, 30 minutes or whatever. You could read a whole juz just by doing this. A whole juz. So brothers and sisters, we have to evaluate. Your death can be tomorrow. And wallahi, you're going to be questioned about the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So the point here is, brothers and sisters, there has to be an aspect of wara in your life. Do you guys remember the days of Corona, COVID-19? How do we used to act when someone we think he has COVID? Remember? Wallahi, we used to treat him like a boogeyman. I'm telling you. Ask me, because this is the way we used to we used to deal with these people in the hospital. And unfortunately, you put in so much, the whole hood and then the whole mask and the whole body. Why? Because he might get you the infection. But when it comes to committing sins, it's okay, right? Act with it just like you would act with COVID. Because sometimes sins can be more severe to your heart more than the COVID itself. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of us and make us better individuals. جزاكم الله خير لحسن استماعكم. سبحانك وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب اليك والعصر إن سيدنا في خص الذي يعمل الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا.